We're going to talk about quilting and patchworking, but mostly patchworking, and then I'll explain what quilting is. I made a couple of patchworks here because there's a few things I'm making to sell, okay? And we're going to talk about um, just a few things, reality in what these things are, and it's not an expensive hobby at all, unless you want it to be. If you want it to be expensive, then go right ahead. But I don't have that type of money to make this expensive. So I'm going to explain a few things. So number one, fabric is fabric is fabric is fabric, okay? The only two things that you would choose from is, if you want it to be cotton. If we do not now have polyester and all types of fabrics, right? These brand name fabrics, I don't even know who these people are, but these brands, and I don't even care. Like, it's ridiculous. And I get it, right? We're in a capitalistic society and people want to make money, and nothing's wrong with making money. That's why I'm making the items I make. But in order for me to make money and still give a good quality, uh, product, I don't have to really spend a whole lot of money, right? So, unless you want to, and that don't even guarantee. So here, let me tell you where I get my, or how they traditionally used to get their fabrics. They didn't go and buy fabrics from the fabric store and based on the name brand and things like that. They actually use items that they already had. Like, for instance, these were a pair of pajama pants from the hospital. A few years I had surgery, and I ended up coming home in these pants. But you can see they're no longer pants, okay? And I cut them up and been cutting on them for a while now. Actually, I made quite a few items with them. But here are the blocks that I've created from those pants, and you can see this is the logo that was on the pants. I cut it out in the center, and I'm going, if I use this in whatever item, if I decide to put it in a quilt, then I will use this block. I will use this right here and add it. I have no problem doing that. Okay, now so people use items that they already had. They did not go out and just buy fabric just for quilting. But that's the good thing about today in our society. We do have that option, right? But what I do is I repurpose items. This was a shirt that was given to me. It was donated to me. As you can see, it has Dickies name brand in it. And I've cut pieces from this. And those pieces are, some of them I cut out today, but I've used them in the past as well. Here are the blocks that I cut from that just today. Okay. And then I had some other fabrics. You do not need to go and buy fabrics to make your quilt or your patchwork. Okay. Now, as far as notions, people like to say, hey, you have to have these rulers, and your rulers have to be perfect in sizes based on the size you need. And that is not true, because your quilt isn't based on a particular size, right? In other words, what size is this block? I don't know. Well, I do know, because I decided to measure it. But the way I made these blocks, I'm about to show you the quick way to use it if you don't have particular rulers or any rulers at all. You don't need rulers to make a quilt patchwork. I use this item right here. This is just a staple pad that my husband had from years ago. You don't need the full pad because I'm not doing any writing. But it's these straight edges that I'm using, okay? So check out how I measured this out. I'm going to use a piece. I'm going to use this piece here. I don't know what size this is, but it doesn't matter. If you want your things on grain, you make a clip and then you tear it. And I'll show you how to do that now. But when you're doing a quilt, it doesn't have to be on grain. Like, your things do not have to be on grain. If I want to cut a block and in this direction, I can. However, it does not have to be on grain. You are not making, unless you're making an item to wear, and even then, it still doesn't need to be on grain because you're patching things together. Okay, but maybe if it's something that you're wearing, you may consider the grain of the item, which people don't usually do. Okay, but anyway, if I wanted to, I could, and I'm gonna show you how I end up, because I repurpose things. I want to use as much as the fabric as I can. So I'm gonna show you how to put things on grain. I'm gonna let's. So they got a tag there. I really don't want to waste that fabric, but that looks to be about 2 inches, so I'll be able to use it. Okay, so I put a little clip, and then I ripped it. You see that? Now this is on grain. This is now a straight edge. You see how I did that? This is now the straight grain of things. We know that this is absolutely straight. Okay? And this side is straight too. And this side is definitely straight, because you can see that I don't know. It looks like it's the edge, but I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm not sure. But this is definitely on grain now, okay? Straight on grain. And if anything, if you have something like this, what I have here, you can see that it's not on grain so much here, you see? And it's not so much grain there. But does it matter? Because I'm about to cut this, okay? Now, I would use this grain, the side that I know is definitely on grain or straight, okay? And then I will put my, whatever I'm using to measure. I want to use the width, okay? And I'm going to put that there. I'll take a marking, and I can mark here and mark along the top, okay? So we know the bottom is right. It looks like I got a little bit to cut here, and that's my straight line at the top there. I'm just using a basic pen so y'all can see as much as you can, okay? And then, since I want it to be a square, I'm then going to use this at the bottom here. Make sure that it ends on the line here. And then I'm going to draw my line there. And here is my perfect square. Let's see if this one will make another one. Let's see, put that there. Nope, it's a little shy of whatever measurement this is. This should be about 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is 5 inches. This width is 5 inches, which means this is a 5 by 5 when I cut it out. I usually do a straight line across the fabric the whole way. You do not need a ruler. Now, if you do have a ruler, then of course, right? You can use a ruler. This isn't a 5-inch ruler, right? It's only 3.5 one way. So I'm just giving you some ideas on, you don't have to have expensive rulers. They don't have to be clear rulers, because they don't have to be rulers at all. Okay, they do not have to be rulers at all. And your items don't have to be a particular size. The reason why people have patterns, when somebody say, here's my pattern, follow my pattern, you need this particular size of a square to come together. That's because they're telling you how to make their pattern in the size that they have. But if you want it to be bigger or smaller, you could use any size that you want. You don't have to use the size that they recommend. Okay, but I guess their recommendation will give you what it is that they provided. And then you have to hope that they gave you the right instructions and the right measurements, right? That's a whole nother thing. But quilting back then, people were taking their blocks, patches, pieces, and everything, and piecing it together. So I used this simple thing, and I made all these blocks. I'm not even joking. I don't have I don't have a 5-inch ruler, and I definitely don't have a square ruler. So I'm not even joking. Every single one of these blocks were made with this pad. Okay, I'm not joking about that. Okay, so now let's go on to when you end up with extra little pieces like this. Now, anything that's smaller than 2.5 inches, 1.5 inch, I will not square that out. Anything 2 and 2.5, I do in strips. Why do I do it in strips? Because I don't want to be dealing with no 1-inch square little piece of anything. But if you do need, if you do find some pieces, odd end pieces on some of your fabric, then I found, let's see, I found this in my Reese's Pieces cup. Reese's Pieces cup, what you call them? It's just a little template, and it measures, looks like 2.1/8 inch square. Okay, 2.1/8 inch square. And I take those on those little pieces, those little odds and ends that came off of here. I didn't want to, I didn't want to lose any bits of the fabric. So see that little area right here? I would put this here and fit that in there. And then I would trace that with a pen. And like, remember when I said it don't have to be on grain? It doesn't. You are patchworking these things. And remember, when you patchwork, you end up putting something behind it. So the fabric isn't flowing in any way at all, right? If you understand how patchworking is, for the most part, especially if you're quilting. Quilting, it doesn't matter what the grain is at all. You are absolutely going to be backing it behind something so there will be no drape of the fabric. So that's why it doesn't matter if it's on grain or not. See, you could tell, now if you're making a wearable garment where you are not going to be interfacing and or, for the most part, putting any batting behind it, then yes, if you're not going to do any of that, then you might want to care about the grain. But other than that, it doesn't matter if this is cut on grain or not. Okay? And so see how I trace that? And then I go and I just cut it out. Now listen, these are not fabric scissors. So I do have fabric scissors. Let me show you those. Now, the rule is you don't use your fabric scissors on other items, right? Now, what does that do? It dulls them. Through time, it dulls them. Paper dulls your paper scissors. I mean, your fabric scissors. So you use your fabric scissors, only on fabric, okay? Only on fabric. But that does not mean that you cannot cut fabric with regular scissors. I bought this at can't think of the name of that store, but it has a lot of workers items and things like that. I purchased a set of scissors for like $3.99. I don't know what the price was, but it was cheap, and it gave me like 5 pair of scissors. You can use regular scissors on fabric. You just don't want to use fabric scissors on regular items. Okay, these are sharp because I basically bought these at the beginning of the in the summer, and they are fairly sharp. Okay, they're actually sharp. Okay, so basically what I'm doing, some people, like I was about to invest in, I forget the name of this thing where you put the fabric there and you roll over it and it cuts out these perfect strips. And I was thinking, wow, that'll save me a lot of time, until I looked at the price of that item. And I was like, oh no, like, look, if I am a quilter or a patchworker, then I am okay with the time that it takes to make my items. And if you're not, then why are you doing this? This is almost like being an artist, taking the time to paint and make it a beautiful, you know, portrait or whatever you're making, right? You take your time and you create what you're creating. And if you're using stencils and tracing other people's work, then you're not the artist. You're not the artist, and it's okay, right? It's okay. But why, if you're not going to take the time to do what it is that you want to do? But, I mean, I digress. And that is why a lot of people, they're trying to get in these quilt, like these contests or what they supposed to be shown. But they're missing the point. See, they think because it's perfectly made by piecing and things like that, and you know, they think that it's gonna be it's gonna qualify to be shown. But that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for uniqueness. They're looking for that you didn't just get somebody's pattern, put it out, and you know, and then send it in. And you cut them perfectly squares and put it together in 2 days. When a quilt may take you a year, depending on what type of quilt, especially if you want it shown. You're going to use different techniques and everything, and you probably going to do a lot of that by hand. Okay? That's why there's those traditional quilts. They are not perfect by any means. They don't even have a color wheel of colors, right? It's just a multitude of colors and different fabrics pieced together. And they took their time. And every piece means something. Like this comes from when I had surgery. I could put this in a quilt and put it over and have it be a piece of my life that's in my quilt that represents a time in my life, right? I could take hubby's work, scrub tops and bottoms and cut them up and make something with just that and say this is his quilt based on his many years in the medical field, and bam, and that's what it should be about. When you do a baby's quilt, it's something for the beginning when they were born. But if you make it correctly, when they get older, somebody will be able to take the baby quilt and add it into a larger quilt or into something else. Quilting was about using what you had and refurbishing, reusing it, taking something and making it into something else, usable. Okay? Anyway, so I've already shown you how to cut, get things on grain if you have to. Okay? Cut and any size, and it doesn't have to be any particular size. Today, people using 2.5-inch strips because they sell them like that, and you buy them like that. I thought that I would like that until I realized they're gonna give me what they want to give me, and also the cost. You know, I could buy fabric and just cut those strips. In fact, you can strip those strips. I can take this and make 2 inches. What I would do is I'll put a little clip here, and at 2.5 inches out, I'll do another clip, and I can rip them into 2.5-inch strips, and they will be on grain. Now, the thing I don't like is that a lot of those strips, somebody had given me some strips, and they were not they were not evenly cut. And if it's off grain, when you expect it to be on grain, you may lose a lot of fabric. Okay? So you got to be careful on how you do that. And you also just do it yourself. But anyway, now let's talk about when I have little small pieces left. When I end up with small little pieces. Now, I know people call something a potato chip, and I don't know exactly what these terms mean, and I don't even know anything about what they call in these different quilt names, log cabins, and things like that, because through the years, those terms changed depending on where you're from and things like that. So the name of it doesn't matter. But what does matter is you using your fabric, okay? Using your fabric. This was a sheet, a whole sheet. I got the top, the fitted sheet, the pillowcases, and the whatever the top sheet portion is, right? I purchased it from Goodwill. And I liked it. I liked the pattern on it. Now, I tested to see what fabric it is. Now, it's very soft and light, but I could tell that it wasn't cotton. Okay, so but I did a test. There is some cotton in it, but there's some polyester in it as well. And I'm gonna just let you know, when you usually have prints on different things like that, the way a lot of things are printed today, I can almost assure you those are polyester. That's how they get those prints on really easily. They sublimate them. It's really easy to just, do it that way. So most things that has patterns are going to be polyester. Okay. The brighter the colors, the more polyester. If it's darkish in color, it may have less polyester. And you can make your own. If you're using polyester fabric, you can make your own. You can supplement your own designs on. And so that's what I'm into. But anyway, when I end up with these little pieces, I do not cut this. I would not cut this. I will keep this in a strip when they small pieces like this. And there's another technique of creating your blocks using strips, okay? But they don't have to be a certain length neither, okay? Whatever I got, I get, and I piece that together. So let me show you what I created, okay? So first, let me show you what I have. I have various pieces, because when I was cutting from the fabric, there were these odd little pieces that would be left. You don't throw these away. You can make something into these. So don't throw them away. And if you want to throw them away, send them to me, okay? Email them or mail them to me. Now, you know when I say email, I'm joking, right? But mail them to me. But I'm going to show you where you may not want to mail them to anyone, because I'm going to show you what you could do with them. They don't have to be even. This is a strip of this fabric, and this was another fabric that I had made a mask with. And then I never used the mask. I never even finished making the mask. So I just unpicked, which you can see where it was sewn here. If you can see, I'm not sure you can. Okay. And I said, okay, I'm going to put this with this. So these are two different fabrics sewn together. And I created this. Okay. I have, let's see what else I have over here. I have a piece of this fabric here, and I had a green, and I pieced them two together. I had some of this pink that you see here, and I pieced it with some of this fabric here, okay? And I went on, and I still have some more pieces to piece together. Here's some here. I pieced that one together. And here are three that I haven't done yet, but I'm going to. I'm piecing that purple to that red, a piece of that to purple, and a piece of that to that teal, right? So if you're doing a patchwork and you're using fabrics that you have around that you don't want to waste, it doesn't matter what you piece them to, and they don't have to be an exact size, and that's the point that I'm making. This green is wider than this purple, but eventually I could even it out, but I don't have to. This piece is not the same size as this piece, and this pink is not the same width. And when I say width, I ended up cutting this to size, but the others I didn't really do that. But I take things that might be similar in length, and I just sew them together, right? And if I want to, I can go back and trim them and make them the same size. What you would do is you would just put that like that, and see the excess on this side is where I would trim that I would trim that up if I wanted that. But why do they need to be the same size? For what? This is going to be pieced together to something else, right? So if I wanted to, I could piece this to this. And I wouldn't piece that to that, but I could come over here or like this and piece that like that and go on and on. But I don't have to do that. I can also piece them like this. And listen, that line don't have to be straight. It could be off like that. You're piecing things. You create your own design. I can create and piece that there. After I piece these two together, I can piece that. And you can do what you want. I can go in and put that there and then piece that like that. And listen, you make your blocks the way you want to make them. Okay? With this green, I probably would trade this around and put that green away from there and do it like this. You see? But my point is you can cut these and even switch this around. Let me show you what I would do with this. I don't know if I want to do it, but I'm going to do it just to show you, okay? Let's see how long this is. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 6 inches, so actually I'm going to just, and even, it doesn't even matter how long it is, right? You fold it in half. Take whatever you got, fold it in half, and cut it. Now you know you just split it in half, right? You don't need to measure everything out. You know that you split this in half. Cut that down. Now I have 2 halves, the same size, right? And then I can piece that together like that. Okay? And it don't have to be a perfect square block, because you can go around and add and things. This is the traditional way of patchworking and quilting. Okay? I call it patchworking because the patchworking part is what we're doing now. The quilting part is what you do when you do the layers and you quilt. Okay? You see what I mean? You do not have to have any particular type of tools. The tools you have, as long as they work. And you don't have to go and make this be a expensive hobby. Okay? And if you're trying to get your quilt placed to be shown, then you're going to have to get away from all that perfect cutting of squares and design. The ones who want the design fabrics, who care about the name of the fabrics, those people want to advertise their fabrics with your design. Cool. Okay? However it works for them. But I don't understand people getting into a hobby, but they don't really want to be in a hobby. They want to create something real quick and fast. Nothing wrong with creating something quick and fast. I want mine to be fast as well. But I also don't want to spend $1 million just so I can create something fast. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend $1,000. And I don't even want to spend $100. I'm going to be honest. Like, there's this thing where you put the fabric in and roll. That thing, I was looking at it. I was like, wow, really? And then I looked at the price and I was like, oh no. And then on top of that, it wastes so much fabric. You gonna get these strips, but it's gonna waste fabric all on the sides. What you mean I'm gonna end up having to either throw that fabric away or end up putting things together like this with it anyway. So you're well to just do it yourself. You can use regular scissors on your fabric. Just don't use your fabric scissors on regular paper and things like that. Okay? And if you do, like these fabric scissors I've had them for 10 years. They absolutely came in a kit. So they're not even the greatest of nothing, right? But they cut well. Okay, they cut well. I take care of them. I haven't really taken care of them because I haven't oiled them and I haven't even cleaned them. But the truth is, I use other fabrics. I use other scissors more. Look, these say China. Y'all, look, I only had them for a little bit. And is that rust? No. I can't tell you where else I use these scissors because I don't want to because I'm embarrassed. But I use these out in my garden as well. That's sand from my garden. That's terrible. But anyway, that's the realities, though. That's the realities. Okay, so I hope I answered. You don't need rulers. You could use straight items. Your pieces don't have to be. Look, this piece was like in this form. You see that? You can see it coming out. Eventually, I will cut that to get that squared off. Or you don't even have to cut that to get that square off. You just put your piece. Like if I was taking this edge to sew to another edge, you see how that's going? I would just put this up here, put that there, and I would sew and just sew using this edge as my quarter at the edge and go a quarter in from there. And then so I don't have to really square that off, right? I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna show you. I really don't want to sew this together like that though. That's not a look that I'm looking for. So maybe I'll find something else that I'm willing to, let's see. And I don't have a look in mind. Like I have no look in mind, no colors in mind. When I put this piece to this, or anything that I put to this piece, I want it to be kind of in this color, right? So they had this green in here. They have a little bluish in here. They have this pink in here. And so that's why I ended up putting this piece here. The other color that I put on this side, I want it to be one of the colors in here as well. So let's say I should have a purple strip somewhere. Like let's say I had a purple strip I might put on this side. Or I may cut this in half and then put the other side on this side. You know what I mean? And I don't know yet. And it don't matter. But when I have strips that I don't know what I'm going to do with yet, I piece them like this. Piece them like this. And then when they go into my little, what I call a stash, which is just a bag. This is what my stash look like. It ain't in no order, okay? Ain't in no order, no nothing. I ain't got time for all of that. When you really want to do this stuff, you ain't got time for all that. I'm not stacking this stuff in no. I'm gonna go in this bag. You could tell. I can tell which straight edge. See when it looks like that? That means I ripped it. Okay, see that? That means I ripped it. That means that is on grain. That's how I know that I've done it. And then I will go and use this and I will sew something on it. And I will cut this off and try to use this piece for something. And these small little pieces like this. Let me show you what I do with those. I throw those in a cup. Like this. Okay? See that? All this is just little ends that I can't do nothing with. They so small. And then what am I going to do with that? Let me show you. Give me a second. Okay, I didn't want this video to be that long, so that's why I'm going to just show y'all this, and I think I'm going to end it here. But I'm just telling you the reality. I make bears, memory bears, bears. And as you can see, I haven't stuffed the arms yet. I started. Feel like a little stuffing is there. Okay. I'm still stuffing in the legs. Maybe I'm thinking about maybe adding a little more to the head. Okay. So here's the back of the bear where when I'm done stuffing, I'll stitch that. The legs part right here, when I'm done stuffing that, I'll stitch that. And so on and so forth, right? This isn't about the bear. So I take my little scraps like this. I make sure there's nothing hard in there to hurt no babies. It should be nothing but fabric. But we make sure by bunching it up right in my hands. Make sure there's no pins accidentally in there or anything hard at all. Okay, so make sure because sometimes, you know, things can fall in. So I make sure and then I'm going to stuff it in my bear. And then when they're finished, I'll close it up. Okay? And so we not having none of this stuff go to the landfill. Okay? Listen, if y'all have some fabrics, jeans, shirts, even if it has stains on it, as long as it's, I could work around stains. That's why I tell people, if you have things that are stained, that other people are not going to wear because of a stain, then I'm okay with getting it. Okay? Because I'm going to cut it up. I'm going to wash. I hope you wash it first. Don't send me no dirty clothes. Please don't donate nothing dirty. I mean, if you can't wash it, keep it. Don't, you know what I mean? I'm gonna wash it anyway, but I don't want people sending me a whole lot of dirty things. Okay, I can't. No, I don't want that in my house. Okay, wash it. And I'll take care of it for you. We're gonna make sure it doesn't go in landfills, and I'll make some items. I make items to donate to kids. I didn't do it this year because I forgot what month it was, but I need to start early, right? They have Dress a Girl. I want to participate in that. I'll take what y'all donate to me, and make dresses for the little girls all over the world and things like that, okay? But we got to keep these things out of the landfill for the sake of our children in the future, our grandchildren, children, and great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. Okay, when I'm reincarnated, I got to come back to the same earth, baby, and I would like it to be still intact. Okay, if y'all believe in that, and if you don't, believe in that, that's okay. But you see what I do with my extra little pieces? If it's a piece though, that's like this, I don't know why that's in there. I probably was lazy and threw it in there. Yeah, I got some pieces. I remember now that when I put those in there. Okay, some larger pieces, I'm going to use those. But these little scrungy pieces that I can't use, I'm going to use those in this way. I hope that makes sense. I hope it gives you some ideas. And for those of you who might not want to quilt because you looked at the pricing of quilting fabrics, materials, don't let that discourage you, okay? Use your old clothing and start, okay? And let me show you what I made with the pieces that you saw me cut out. Last night, I made this one. It's not in any particular arrangement, right? Because I used 4 rows of 4. And I just used the same 4 colors and just sewed them together in no particular order. Okay, and this one as well. Okay, and I noticed depending on the way I did it, depend on if it met up correctly. You see that? How everything's kind of meeting up on this one, which looks good. But this one looked good as well. And these are not meeting up. So what I'm saying is you don't have to worry about those people talking about, oh, the points have to match. The points do not have to match. Because looking at this, nobody would know that the points don't match if I wouldn't have mentioned it. Not only that, but I did something in this. And I want y'all, I know y'all going to see it because I'm telling you. But if I had not told you, you would not recognize it. Especially what this is going to be. This is going to be a bag, a clutch. Okay, I'll show y'all a picture of it when I'm done with it. But look at that. You see this? I had 2. I ended up with edges. Like this came off the end of me cutting. And you see how it's not exactly the full size of my block, right? So I decided to keep it and add another color that had the same issue, like this. And then what I did, because I am using a certain block size, when I sewed it, right? I sewed them together, and then I took it and measured it to be 5 inches. Then I cut it and cut it, and that's how this block is 5 inches. It fits, but it's 2 different fabrics. And nobody's going to know that because this is, like I said, this is going to be a clutch. And so this is going to be something like where this side goes in, you know what I mean? And it's gonna be like it's gonna be an envelope type of clutch where you can put your you can put whatever you want in it, but it's gonna be also great for carrying your iPad and things like that. Okay, if you want to. So anyway, I just wanted to show you for those who trying to get these edges to match. Now, the one that matched up, I did a different technique, and this one that didn't match up, I did another technique. So what did I do where these didn't match up? So what I did was, let me see how I did it. Looks like I did it this way. I sewed row by row by row by row, right? I did row, 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 row. And then after I sewed the 4 rows, then I took this row and sewed it to this row, and this row and sewed it to that row, right? And then I took those 2 rows and sewed them together. And that's why they're not meeting up. That's why they're not meeting up. Okay? But with this one, I did it differently. That was the first one I did. This is the second one. And when I noticed that, I said, okay, let me do this differently. Right? So what I did this time, I sewed blocks. So I sewed these 2 together, and then I took these 2 and sewed it to these 2. You see how where I'm not using the whole strip. I made a block. I took the blocks and made a block. And then I took this, made a block, that made a block, that made a block. Which means all of the blocks meets up, right? And then I took this block, sewed it to that block, making sure that they meet up. And took this block and sewed it to that block, making sure they meet up. And then I took all of it and this side and this side of blocks and got them to meet up here. Okay? And that's why they meet up better than me doing it this way. Now, this is the way most people tell you to do it. When I look at the internet, YouTube, they tell you to sew this block, that block, that block, that block, then boom, 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 boom. But you will not be able to get those things to match unless you're taking your very time and using pins. And I don't use pins when I sew. I don't. I don't have time for that. Okay, I don't have time for that. I take this fabric, I lay it on. I just don't have time. Let me show you how I do that. I don't have time for that because really, truly, nobody can notice that from their eyes. You just see a nice, pretty patchwork of colors. You don't even care that. The one thing I'm against, there's only one thing I'm against in patchworking. I do not want 2 of the same colors sitting side by side. That's it. I don't care. I'm okay with them being like this. I'm okay with that. In fact, I like that. I like that when that happens. But I do not want, I cannot stand when they're side by side like this. I tried not to have them in the same row. So something I did when I was patching, when I was doing it, one of them I sewed probably the wrong edge. So that's why this row has 2 purples. And if this row has 2, you know what I mean? But it didn't matter. Actually, I don't know if I used 4 colors with this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did use 4 colors. I actually used 5 colors. Look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's why. Okay, I ended up using 5 colors in this one. But in this one, if I'm correct, I only use 4 colors. The same 4 colors as each row. Okay. I'm okay with them touching like this. In fact, I like that when it goes like this, especially in the center. But I do not want them side by side like that. Okay. That's my only rule for my patchwork. Okay. And that could be hard. The larger your quilt is, the harder it could be. And that's why I piece them together while I'm going, right? And that's why you see this technique of me putting 2 together and 2 together and 2 together and 2 together as I go. And then when it's time, I'll start looking at other 2s and saying, okay, this 2 could go here. And then I do the bottom, making sure that none of them end up right underneath each other. Okay. And that's how I do it. And I don't have no great way to piece. And I can't fold all these pieces. I don't care. This bag is usable and I will be using it. But I am not going and I am not going to fold these things, roll these things or nothing. I'm not going to put the blues together with the greens, and I'm not going to do that. I'll throw it all in here. I can see it's a clear bag, and if I need some greens, I see the greens. If I need some blues and I don't see no blues, ooh, I see a blue there. See, I see some darker blues, some jeans. And if I don't see the blues, then I'm gonna just go to the store and get me some fabric that's blue. I don't have time for all that other stuff them people talking about, baby. Okay, my time is valuable, and they crazy. They have OCD, ECD, UCD, using too much of it. They got too much time on their hands. Okay, they got TMTOH. I need to write that down so I can remember. They got too much time on their hands. I don't have no OCD. I'm okay with all this clutter right now until I get ready to get it up, clean it up so I can go to bed. But while this is here, while I'm working, I can deal with it. Okay? I can handle it. Okay? So I hope, and everybody who have OCD, you can't follow me, baby. Okay? Because I'm going to get on your nerves. But if you don't have OCD, I'm going to teach you how to do this the right way, the cheaper way, and you could go as cheap as you want to and more expensive if you want to, and that's all your choice. Nothing wrong with it. I don't have no money to be buying no these different brand fabrics. I'm great to use them, and if they send it to me for free, I'll use them and let y'all know how good they were or bad they were. But I'm not going out to buy no name brand fabrics. I don't even buy no name brand clothes. What? First of all, did they make the fabrics themselves? Or is it just fabric that they put a design on? And did they paint the design? Like, come on. And then, oh my goodness, what is going on in the fabric world, in the quilting world? What are y'all doing? Y'all ruining it for everybody like me. I'm not going to be able to do this because y'all making it too expensive. And listen, who makes it too expensive? You do. Consumers. You do. You make it seem like they stuff is worth anything better than... Listen, they put a print together. They put a print together. That's great. I'm not even downplaying it. But then the fabric itself is just the basic fabrics that they get to choose. You absolutely get to choose. For the most part, if you go to Spoon Flower and things like that, that's how it works. They get to choose which one of those fabrics they want to put it on, and based on that, they price you. And I'm telling you, they put it on that one that costs $22 and charging you much more. Okay? And charging you much more. I'm gone. I'm not against them making money. They just can't get my money, okay? I can't. Y'all donate y'all fabrics to me. I'm talking about your clothing. Don't let them go to the landfills. Donate them to people like me. Go, you know what I mean? People like me. Okay? Or use them yourself. And that's all I got to say. And I hope y'all have a good day, because this is about an hour. And I have some quilting to do. So how am I going to quilt this? I said I'm making a clutch slash, it's clutch with the two that I have. That's why they particular sizes. And so I do have to quilt it, and I'm just going to do some basic quilting because I do want, I have some batting, and I also have foam. And because I'm making a bag, I can use either one. Which one is easier? The foam, I don't have to do too much quilting. The batting, depending on what type of batting I have, I may have to do some quilting, right? You could do quilting on each side of the lines. It'll make it look nice, right? Or I can just really, I would never do an X on something like this. That to me is ugly, right? The only way I would do an X is if I was doing a quit as you go, or if I was, and even a quit as you go, I wouldn't do an X. I don't like it. Okay. You could do so much more than Xing. Okay. And like you can literally, if you're gonna do an X, you could just go straight. You could do 2 lines down the center, right? You instead of doing this on all of them, you could do a line here and a line here, and everything will be good. You could X this, you know, do a design instead of X. But X is what, to me, that's ugly. The only way I would do an X on something like this too, if it was all the same color, and I was able to, you know, put the X in without you visibly being able to notice it from afar. Okay? I'm not telling you X's are wrong. I'm just saying there's other things than X's. Or if I did an X, I would use one of my my design stitches. You know, one of my what they call these stitches? I have several on my computer, and make it cute. Make maybe some hearts going down. You know what I mean? Something like that. And but just a regular stitch X that's noticeable, I won't do that. I don't do that. I think that's, I don't know what that is. Okay. Anyway, I appreciate y'all coming and watch. I'm just trying to tell you, this is for those who don't have a lot of money, but you do have access to fabrics that you are able to quilt as well. Okay? And yeah, you don't need much, you don't need a lot of notions. Okay? And you don't even need a sewing machine, to be honest. Okay? You know how easier it is to sew these blocks together by hand? And I'm telling you, it's so much easier. It's not as fast, but it's easier. Okay? I guess quickness and ease, I guess it depends on what you think is easier. Right? Getting at the sewing machine and stitching, but stitching it by hand while you look at TV and things like that. Okay. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'm out.